2 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few wide receivers I have as sleeper options this week. The first guy, Corey Davis of the New York Jets. Corey Davis, a few seasons ago, signed a pretty big deal with the New York Jets here. And right now, he's the number 2 wide receiver on this roster for this Jet team. Him and Elijah Moore, the 2 top guys. In week 1, 6 catches, 77 yards on 10 targets. And here in week 2, not the greatest of matchups at the Cleveland Browns here. And we'll see if Denzel Ward's going to be on Moore or Corey Davis. So right here, Corey Davis available in 88% of fantasy leagues here. And last week, it was good to see him get targets. Joe Flacco starting once again for this New York Jet team. And I think this Jet team's going to be down early and often at the dog pound over there in Cleveland. But right now, Davis available in tons of leagues. He's going to get a decent workload once again in targets, I think, here. And he's a wide receiver I have as a sleeper option this week. The next wide receiver I have as a sleeper option this week, Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Zay Jones, he signed a pretty big contract in the offseason here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. It just wasn't Christian Kirk. He got some decent money as well here, Zay Jones. So right here in week 1, had a mediocre game, 6 catches, 65 yards on 9 targets. And here in week 2, I think this Jacksonville team, they're going to play in a ball game similar like they did in week 1 with the Washington Commanders. A possible back and forth ball game early, or even a game where they're trailing early and often, and Trevor Lawrence is going to have to throw the football 40, 45 times in the game. So right here, it was good to see Zay Jones in all 3 wide receiver sets. It was good to see him get 6 catches for 65 yards. And this week here, if it's going to go the way I think it is the game script, where they're trailing quick and they got to make up points in a hurry, is this Jacksonville team. I think he could have a decent ball game as Zay Jones. And if you want him in your fantasy league as a sleeper option or flex, he's available right now. Still in 87% of fantasy leagues, and he's a guy I have as a sleeper option. And the final sleeper option I have as wide receiver this week's Kyle Phillips of the Houston Texans. And the third and final wide receiver I have as a sleeper, the Erwin Shepherd of the New York Giants. In week 1, he had a good ball game, even though I know it was only 2 catches, 71 yards, because he caught a 65-yard touchdown in that one. But right here, this Giant team, their wide receivers, it's just been a weird thing over the last few seasons. Tani, they drafted him last season. He's been banged up for his career so far. Kenny Galilei, he hasn't done much. And Sterling Shepard, when healthy, he's had some decent fantasy days. So week 1, 4 targets, 2 catches, 71 yards, and a touchdown. And right here, he's got a decent matchup in week 2 versus the Carolina Panthers, where I could see this ball game being in the low 20s to mid 20s between these 2 teams. So right now, he's going to be on the field as Sterling Shepard. Had the 65-yard touchdown in week 1 here. And I think he could have a decent ball game, but he's definitely a dart throw as well. He's definitely a guy that you would take a chance on big time as a sleeper option this week in deeper leagues or heavy flex formatted leagues. And he's available in 95% of leagues. So that's a few wide receivers I have as sleeper options for week 2 of the fantasy football season.